Please note that no AI, colorization or digital enhancement has been applied to my personal archive of original postcards, photographs, slides and negatives featured on this YouTube channel. This photograph shows the masons' arms that traded on the Chesterfield road at Woodseats during the 19th century. The old hostelry was replaced in the early years of the 20th century. The replacement building can be seen here not long after its construction. The large house was erected at a period when the locality was transforming from its old rural character into something of a suburb for Sheffield. As Norton Woodseats was historically part of Derbyshire, I imagine these changes did not sit comfortably with some of the older local residents. In more recent years, the pub has traded as the Big Tree. The hostelry had been colloquially known as such for many years, the name gathering more credence during the Edwardian years and often referenced as such in newspaper articles during the reign of King George V. The name refers to the tree in front of the building. It was not looking so healthy in this photograph. Indeed, it was reported in the Sheffield Daily Telegraph in February 1907 that the tree, having shown little evidence of life, was cut down. It had been regarded as an old friend to those who had sat beneath the tree and imbibed the ale served in the old mason's arms. The newspaper collared the oldest villager who could not remember the day when the old chestnut tree was planted, and it was supposed to be about 100 years old. When its trunk was cut down, it was found to be quite hollow. Another tree was planted in its place, but that specimen was also lost after strong winds damaged what was a diseased specimen. Another healthy-looking tree now stands outside the Green King-operated hostelry. It is said on the pub's website that the replacement tree was uprooted by an elephant belonging to a touring circus. The animal had apparently been tethered to the tree. Is this a case of local folklore? Returning to the former inn, the old tree was looking fairly healthy when this photograph was taken. This old tavern was recorded as the Freemasons' Arms in the General and Commercial Directory of Sheffield, published in 1825, when James Frith was the licensee. The name of the house was shortened in subsequent years. An advertisement for prospective tenants during June 1861 shows that the premises was operated by the Neep's End Brewery at Sheffield. 7 years later, the brewery was acquired by William Stones and renamed the Cannon Brewery. The name of Joseph Ibbotson can be seen on the sign above the door. This publican had kept the house in the late 1870s and in the 1880s. He became a very well-known horse dealer in Sheffield. He also founded a horse bus service between Woodseats and Heeley. His wife, Kate Ibbotson, gave evidence at an inquest in December 1881, during which she stated that an elderly Sheffield artist named Thomas Skinner was drinking in the house the night before he died of arsenic poisoning. She deposed that he was accompanied by Felicia Dover, a woman better known as Kate, and dubbed the Queen of Heeley due to her artistic interests and her flamboyant wardrobe. The landlady thought, despite the huge age gap, the pair emanated the appearance of a couple. Kate Dover was described as the painter's housekeeper. Whatever the domestic arrangements had been, the 27-year-old housekeeper cum lover had apparently other plans for Thomas Skinner. She had purchased the poison earlier that evening. The following day the artist was served a fowl stuffed with onion which had been dressed and cooked by Kate Dover. With the evidence stacked up against her, she appeared at the Leeds Assizes on a charge of murder. Her sharp lawyer managed to get the charge reduced, and she was accordingly found guilty of the manslaughter of Thomas Skinner. She was handed a life sentence for her crime, but in 1899 she was released, following which she lived with her sisters at Rotherham. There is a whole page devoted to Kate Dover on Wikipedia where one can read her background, life story, along with full details of the case. The landlady, Kate Ibbotson, could have faced a serious charge herself following the death of one of her customers. In January 1876, an inquest was held in Mason's Arms on the body of John Jackson, a master file maker. On New Year's Eve, he, as patron of the house, went into the room in which the landlady was engaged in writing a letter. There was a broken fork upon the table, and John Jackson, who in a playful mood took it and amused himself by interrupting her while she was writing. Ultimately, Mrs. Ibbotson snatched the fork, which had only one prong, out of his hand, and in order to put it out of his reach, threw it under the table. Unfortunately, it struck the filemaker on the leg, the prong entering the flesh and causing a small punctured wound below the left knee. The injury was not considered serious at the time, and after rubbing it with some rum, Jackson walked into Sheffield. On his return home, however, the wound had become so painful and the leg so swollen and inflamed, Dr. Booker was sent for. It was determined that erysipelas had set in, resulting in his death on January the 13th. The coroner, in summing up, said there could be no doubt that the injury inflicted by Mrs. Ibbotson had been purely accidental, and the jury returned a verdict in accordance with the evidence. At the time of this photograph, the Mason's Arms was kept by the Irish-born widow Mary Twivy. She was landlady until January 1915. In Edwardian times, the hostelry was a meeting place and headquarters of the Hallamshire Harriers, a cross-country running club. I assume they would have to wait until the end of their 7 to 10 mile paper chase before enjoying a few beers. Or tea, perhaps. The club reportedly supped tea at times, but generally followed by a smoker. Different times, eh? A few years after this photograph was taken, there was a terrible accident at the Mason's Arms in May 1910. Henry Sparks, a partner in the firm of Cronshaw and Sparks, mineral water manufacturers of Sheffield, was driving out on business in his dog cart, and after calling at several hotels in the district, arrived at the Mason's Arms about 9 o'clock at night. He transacted some business with the landlord and then left the house, intending to proceed straight home. Just as he mounted the dog cart, the horse reared and threw him over the back of the trap and into the road. He was picked up and driven home, and Dr. Black was summoned. The practitioner stated that the spine of the 58-year-old Henry Sparks was broken, and there was no hope of his recovery. At the inquest held at the Primitive Methodist Church on Scarsdale Road, a verdict of accidental death was returned. A notable host of the Big Tree Hotel was George Greenfield. He held the post of President of the Sheffield, Rotherham and District Licensed Victuallers Association. A native of Sheffield, he entered the off-licence business around 1890. 10 years later he became a licensed victualler. First he held the licence of the Griffin Hotel on Spittal Street, then went to the Midland Hotel at Spittal Hill. He took over at the Big Tree Hotel in the early 1920s. A keen sportsman, he managed to find time to interest himself in most branches of sport. In 1904 he was one of the founders of the Sheffield and Hallamshire Licensed Victuallers Cricket and Football League. He was also one of the founders of the Sheffield Licensed Victuallers Darts League. Apparently the publican was a supporter of both Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday, but perhaps he was keen to maintain a customer base with both sets of fans. He was president of the Norton Woodseats Amateur Football Club from 1922 to 1928. A pioneer of motor excursions, Mr. Greenfield conducted in 1911 the first motor excursion to the English Cup final, which was then held at the Crystal Palace. The publican was an enthusiast for allotments, and the Big Tree Hotel became the headquarters of the Meadowhead Freeholder Society and the Woodseats Allotment Society. Thanks for viewing and listening to my blurb. You can post your comments below, particularly if they will enhance the information for other viewers. You can also click on the subscribe button to receive a message when a new video is uploaded.